This is the Catalyst Machineworks Shocker. This is the 5-inch version, and this is the 4-inch version. And a lot of people were surprised when I did my 4-inch long-range roundup that both Catalyst Machineworks and I thought the Shocker didn't belong in that video. It was gonna be in there, but then upon closer reflection, it seemed like maybe it didn't quite fit. So where does the Shocker fit? That's what we're gonna talk about today. And which is better, the 5-inch or the 4-inch? I'm Joshua Bardwell, and you're gonna learn something today. Now, of course, we're going to do a bench review of these guys and take a closer look at the frame and how Catalyst Machineworks has built them out. But I want to start this video by talking about how they fly. And so I'm going to do that while I'm flying them. Now, this is the 5-inch, and I am flying it with I think it's an 1100 milliamp hour pack. The all-up weight is about 387 grams. And we're going to compare that to the 4-inch as well. But let's just see how this guy flies. Now, 387 grams is freaking light for a 5-inch, and so that starts to get to some of the reasons why this was not included in the roundup. Because this guy does not really fit in with the 4-inch long range in terms of its weight and its performance. It's very difficult to get this under 250 grams, whereas those the micro long range 4 inches pretty much all could get under 250 grams without too much trouble. The 4-inch is a little lighter, we'll see that in a minute, but still. But in terms of performance, these are 2004 motors, 2004 motors with 5-inch T-mount Gemfan props, and this flies a lot more like a 5-inch acro quad. Yeah, this is mighty fun to fly. I'm going to see, I'm not really going easy on it. I'm going to see how long it could fly, but I'm not going to show you like the entire flight because I don't want you to just sit there for 6-7 minutes, whatever. But I'm going to run this pack all the way down. This has got Catalyst Machineworks PID tune on it. It's not bad, Betaflight 4.2 or whatever. It is a custom PID tune. As you would expect from Catalyst Machineworks with their racing heritage. It handles pretty freaking good. Ooh, that was close. I almost hit that. And I am not a racing pilot extraordinaire, but it handles pretty good. 22.3 volts, we're 4 minutes, 16 seconds, we're still going. I am going to run this all the way down, and I'm going to keep flying it exactly like this. I'm not just going to go easy on it. Still not really feeling any sag. That's partly because this is a 6S, and 6S doesn't feel sag as easily as 4S. But partly just because it doesn't weigh a damn thing. Oh, that felt like a prop might be. That felt like a prop might be loose, the way it fell out. Let's find out. Well, that's pretty fascinating. The props that these motors use are these Gemfan T-mount props, and they have, I don't know if the camera's picking this up, but they have this little plastic insert. If you're going to use them as T-mount props, the plastic insert goes in the middle, and then the 2 screws go in. You can take the plastic insert out and use them as standard props, so they go both ways. It looks like the the prop, I can't find the prop, but it either broke, it must have broke at the hub and flown off, because I don't think there's any way it could have fit over these screws, but interesting. That's not Catalyst's fault, that's maybe my fault, maybe Gemfan's fault, I don't know, but That's the first time that's happened, though. I should go back out and try and find that prop one more time and just see if I can figure out how it failed. Fine. The flight time, I'll put the actual flight time on screen, but it was something like 6 minutes, and I was at about 22 volts. So I feel confident that not carrying a GoPro, you're looking at maybe 8 minutes of aggressive freestyle, and it seems obvious that if you go a little easier, then that would extend even further to maybe 11 or 12 minutes. So you immediately start to see some of the advantage of this style of quad. You just get much longer flight time. And a lot of people would argue that if you're using the DJI system, there is less of a compelling case for running a GoPro. Obviously, if you're really trying to get the best quality to post on YouTube or something, then you're gonna run a GoPro. But for a lot of people, if you're just posting for funsies, the DJI DVR, oh, here we go. The DJI DVR is gonna be more than adequate, and you can save that weight and get that additional flight time. So yeah, we can see here what happened. The prop clearly failed. Interesting. That's the first time I've had that happen to me. I haven't run a ton of these props, but worth mentioning. Maybe you want to go with an actual T-mount prop, or maybe that's just a weak spot of a T-mount prop, regardless of the fact that Gemfan is doing it. No. See, there would be more material on the prop if the whole prop hub was made in the T-mount style versus having that little plastic insert, because that little plastic insert would be part of the prop. So, interesting. That wasn't that hard of a hit. Now we're going to fly the 4-inch version of the Shocker, and in a lot of ways it is identical to the 5-inch version. The same 2004 motors, the same flight controller, ESC, Caddx Vista, etc., but obviously smaller props. And the KV on the motors, these are 3150 kV motors, and so they will be flown on a 4S battery. And this is an 850 milliamp hour 4S, whereas we flew with about 1,000 milliamp hour on the 5-inch, because it could just hold a bigger battery. You can also see that the way Catalyst has set this up, the 4-inch is not really intended for carrying a GoPro. They've put the GPS up on the front. Of course, Catalyst is a custom builder, and they will build your quad however you want. So obviously you could spec this with a GoPro if you chose to. That's just not how they built it. Whereas you can see on the 5-inch, there's plenty of room right there to install a GoPro mount if that was what you decided to do. So let's put this guy up in the air. And I want to start out with a discussion of why this was not included in the Micro 4-inch long-range shootout. But I'll do that while we're flying. The weight of this quad with 850 milliamp hour 4S is about 300 grams. And that is noticeably heavier than any of the other 4-inches in this roundup. They were all under 250 grams with this battery. Maybe not the Chimera. I'd have to go back and check. So when Catalyst Machineworks saw what they were up against, they were kind of like, oh, this isn't really the same beast. We should not expect to get the same flight time and endurance and range out of these motors because of the heavier quad and because the motors are more powerful and less efficient. I think it makes more sense to think of the Shocker as a lightweight 5-inch freestyle build, and then the 4-inch Shocker as a 4-inch version of a lightweight 5-inch freestyle build, as opposed to a long-range cruiser. So how does it freestyle? Well, let's find out. And I think the thing that'll show this guy off the best is that you're not going to see a freaking Flywheel Explorer pop up in the air like that, guys. Oh, you're going to crash that into the fence. You're just... yeah, wow. That's really something. I'm gonna crash this. Holy crap. I'm gonna have so much fun zipping it around. I'm gonna crash it. Why does it feel faster and more powerful than the 5-inch? Is the up tilt the same? I gotta wonder if Catalyst, I didn't check that. Catalyst Machineworks set these up for me. I had not checked the up tilt. If this had a lot more up tilt, then it would be doing this. I don't know. It's way punchier. Oh, it's lighter. It's got the 850 battery. That's got to be it. So I bet if we put an 850 or an equivalent weight battery on the 5-inch, I think we just have a much heavier battery compared to the power. But wow, this is really making me want to fly it. I'm going to change my mind about doing a slow flight to test flight time and see how it compares to the others. This is just too much freaking fun. Three minutes flight time, 14.6 volts. We got a lot more flying to do yet. This test is not going to be very effective if I end it by crashing into a tree, so I'm going to try not to do that. Or my pool, or my car. Oh my god. Oh wow. Well, just off the cuff, I can immediately tell you which I would rather be flying, the 5-inch or the 4-inch. This is so much more fun. Just immediately zipping around. I should put a lighter battery on the 5-inch to give it a fair shake. But yikes. Don't feel any issue with low throttle control. How is the prop wash handling? Little bit of prop wash there. Maybe related to the tune. No, oh yeah. So I gotta check the tune on this. Oh yeah, a little trilling oscillation there. I don't know if you could hear it in the microphone. Just a little bit of a in the sharp turn. Maybe the D gain is a little too high. Perhaps they're using the same PIDs as they do on the 5-inch and they're not tweaked. I would have to check that. During normal flight, it doesn't seem to really come out very much, but this is so much fun to fly. Wow. It's just so responsive. It's just so responsive. You're just like, I'm going over there. 14.3 volts. We are at 5 minutes flight time, so compared to a typical 5-inch, you know, we're getting way more flight time, but just, okay, now we're down around, 3.2, oh no, I'm done. Get off the throttle, Joshua. 3.2 volts. Get off the throttle, bring it home. No, it's done. Come on, battery. Oh, I killed it. Well, I found the limit. That was too much fun, and I found the limit. 12.3 volts.
Now that you've seen how they fly, let's take a look at them on the bench. And before we do that, you should know that these are not really bind and fly kits. Yes, Catalyst Machineworks built these for me, and yes, they will build them and send them to you just like they did for me, but Catalyst Machineworks doesn't just have one bind and fly kit that they sell. They're more of like a bespoke builder, if you know what I mean. They will talk to you about your specific requirements and build a quadcopter to your requirements. You want a GPS? You don't want a GPS. You want to carry a GoPro? You don't want to carry a GoPro. Maybe you want got a certain idea about what kind of motors you want to prioritize flight time versus performance. They'll talk to you about your needs and they'll build it to your specs. Or you can just say, send me the one Bardwell had, and they'll do that too. When you consider the price of these, first of all, know that the price is not going to be fixed. It'll change depending on how you spec the quad out. And number two, you're going to pay a little bit more for these that are hand built in Houston, Texas, USA by Catalyst Machineworks, as opposed to something that is sort of slapped out on an assembly line somewhere else in the world. Which is not to say that slapped out assembly line ready to fly quads are bad. They actually are also quite good. But anyway, let's dive in. And I want to start by looking at the 4-inch Shocker. And you should immediately start to see why it's a different beast than the micro long range 4 inches that I reviewed previously. If you missed that, there is a link in the video description to that playlist. I reviewed 4 different micro long range quads and then a final video in the playlist summing up which one I thought would be the best for you. Link in the video description. It is made from thicker carbon fiber. It has more carbon fiber. It's got just a lot of sort of bracing and stiffening. And it has bigger, heavier motors as well. These 2004 motors are adding weight. In addition to that, it's using a 20 millimeter flight control stack. A lot of the micro long range 4-inches either used a 16 millimeter flight control stack or used a toothpick style flight controller with an ESC and flight controller on one board. All of those things save weight. But the trade-off that you get with this guy is that it is far more durable and stiffer than the alternatives. It should be way more capable of taking a hit if you wanted to use it for fast, aggressive proximity flying than any of those other guys, at the expense of flight time, of course. To me, this frame feels like a combination of the remix from Oh My God and the Catalyst Machineworks sort of standard design. The top plate design reminds me of the Banggood. The way that the electronics hang below the top plate reminds me of the remix. And in fact, it's even got a little sort of gate here. You remove two of these screws and these arms swing down to make room for you to get at the flight control stack. One of the complaints that I had about the Banggood frame was that it is so tight and compact and you have to like take a whole carbon fiber plate off, which requires pulling a lot of screws. Catalyst Machineworks has definitely increased the maintainability of the Shocker compared to some of their other frames. The video transmitter, or in this case the Vista, goes in the back, and the back is not accessible without removing this captive screw here. There's no sort of swing out mechanism for that. So it is going to be a little bit annoying if you ever have to get at it. And it does bring me to one of the things I always have to mention about Catalyst Machineworks builds. They are amazingly thought out builds. Like just the mind of this guy when he comes up with these designs, I don't even know, like it's okay, speechless. But you definitely have to be willing to accept or even desire this level of complexity. Like this type of screw seems like a fine idea, except when you're trying to actually get it installed and you're trying to hold it with a tweezers and get the other screw in and hold the carbon fiber in place, and suddenly you're cussing and you're dropping it on the floor, and it's a little bit annoying. Hopefully you don't have to do that too often, but you definitely have to accept that Catalyst Machineworks frames are a little bit more fiddly than some of the other frames out there, and that may be part of their appeal. Now you can see here that I've installed some Grip battery pad on the top deck to help hold the battery in place. Catalyst Machineworks says they haven't had a problem with losing batteries, but especially if I am not using rubberized battery straps, I always want a little bit of battery pad. Whether it's Grip or some generic gel battery pad, I always want that to help me not lose my battery in a crash. One of the reasons that you want to have a battery pad is to keep the screw heads from digging into your battery and damaging your battery cells when the battery is strapped down. But in this case, Catalyst Machineworks has actually countersunk the screw heads so that they are, well, they're not quite flush actually. I can just barely feel it, but they've countersunk them so that they'll be less likely to dig in. And this is just the kind of small touches that Catalyst Machineworks puts into their frames. Keeping the battery from moving is especially important with this type of frame. And if you've ever owned a Remix, you know when the battery is mounted on top like this, you don't have a ton of clearance. In this case, it actually isn't too bad with this 850. If I were to put it sideways, you get less clearance. And if you were to try to use a larger battery, then you might not have hardly any clearance at all. And if a prop nicks a battery, it's going to be a bad day for you. Now, we've been talking about the 4-inch until now, but you can see that the 5-inch is really just exactly the same, just a little bit bigger. So there are a few things that are different here on the 5-inch build. They've put the GPS in the back. They have heat shrunk the GPS wires to help insulate them from, I don't know why it helps, because just putting heat shrink around the GPS wires shouldn't provide any shielding. But people have said that heat shrinking the wires and maybe twisting them together helps the GPS get a lock faster. And we didn't see the problem with this one that we saw with many of the other micro long-range 4-inches, where the interference from the Caddx Vista and other things caused them to take forever to get a GPS lock. This one got a GPS lock very quickly and immediately went to 8 satellites. I mean, you'd ideally like to have like 12 or 14 satellites, but it definitely seems to do better than the other ones that we were looking at in the 4-inch roundup. One of the things that Catalyst Machineworks always gets right in their frames is the camera mounting. When you mount an FPV camera, you need it to be protected from a frontal impact. The camera is the thing that is most likely to take a hit when you crash, but at the same time, you don't want your field of view obscured to have anything like in the side. And it's difficult to do because different cameras have different sizes, not just like micro versus nano versus full size, but even within like micro cameras, the depth of the camera may be different. And so you may need to move the camera forward and backward to have the lens perfectly protected, but not so far back that you've got something in the sides of the camera. Catalyst Machineworks accomplishes that with this mounting system. Now you can see here for the DJI camera, it is just mounted with these 2 screws. You have a little bit of adjustable up tilt by loosening these screws, but it's just held perfectly in place. If you were going to mount a different kind of camera, you would install it using these 2 holes here, and it would allow you to slide the camera forwards and backwards. You wouldn't have anything to lock the angle of the camera though, other than the tension of the screw itself. By the way, if you do use an analog camera with this, the DJI camera is actually 1 millimeter wider than a standard micro-sized camera. I have no idea why DJI did this. And this frame is sized for the DJI camera, so you will need like a couple 0.5 millimeter washers if you're going to put a standard analog camera in here. Otherwise, the screws won't be able to make the kind of tension that they need. So that brings us to the end of the video, and as always, the question, should you buy it? And this is a tough one, because a lot of people who are focused on lightweight quads are focused on that arbitrary 250 gram limit that is imposed in many countries. And if that's your goal, then these may not be the quads for you. The 5-inch is going to really struggle to get under 250 grams. In fact, I kind of doubt that it's possible in any sort of realistic way. The frame itself is just too heavy. The 4-inch, Catalyst Machineworks assures me it can be built under 250 grams, but you're going to have to give up something to get there. For example, you might need to go with smaller motors than these 2004 motors, etc. At which point, you're kind of in a weird place, because the whole point of this frame is that it is a stiffer, heavier, more durable, tougher frame for a higher powered, faster, more proximity style quad. And if you sort of gut that to get it down below 250 grams, then you may as well just use a lighter frame. So then, what is the point of these frames? I've been asking myself that as I try to figure out how to write this conclusion. If you want a lightweight quad, and you're not bound by that arbitrary 250 gram limit, why would you stop at 300, 350, 400 grams? Why not go to 500 grams or 600 grams, get a lot more flexibility in parts and so forth? And I think I know the answer though. There's 2 answers to this question. Number 1, if you believe that lighter weight quads fly better, which I do, I think they do. As long as you want to build a lighter weight 5-inch quad, why would you stop at 700 grams, 600 grams, 550 grams, 500 grams? Why would you, I mean, there's a point of diminishing returns, or we would all just fly tiny whoops. The quad needs to have a certain amount of weight to get the flight characteristics you want. But the reason that we build quads in the 700 to 600 to maybe 800 gram range is those are the parts that are available for 5 inches. And if you build a 5-inch down around 500, 450, 400 grams, you give up so much in terms of power and in terms of durability. But what Catalyst Machineworks seem to be saying with the 5-inch Shocker is that's not true anymore. It doesn't have to be true. The 2004 motors that are being developed give a lot of power and performance as long as the quad isn't too heavy. And the Shocker seems to be designed to be a lightweight 5-inch frame that is still durable enough to take some hits. Especially if you buy into the argument that as long as you're flying DJI, you maybe don't need a GoPro anymore, or maybe you sign up to the new craze of naked GoPros. You could be flying this guy with all of the speed and handling and performance of a 700 gram 5-inch quad with a GoPro on board or without, and down closer to the 400 gram range. And that's going to open up a lot of possibilities. See, this is the problem. Basically, nobody out there is flying 400 gram 5 inches because all the parts stink and they're just not worth flying. for the most. Sorry, the one guy out there who built a really awesome 400 gram 5-inch that I haven't heard of, and now I've slandered you. My bad. So there's a little bit of an uphill battle here, maybe to convince people that the Shocker is something interesting and worth considering, but I definitely think that it is. That's the 5-inch. The 4-inch, though, man, here's the thing. When I did my micro long-range shootout, one of the things I said was, I am not, first and foremost, a long-range pilot. I am not interested in flying for 40 minutes at a time. I get bored and I want to go do something else. And some people were a little bit annoyed, saying, why would you review long-range quads and say, I'm not a long-range pilot? I feel like if you are a long-range pilot, I hope I gave you the information you needed to make your own decision. But I always want to be honest with you about where I'm coming from. And that is where I'm coming from. And this is a stinking fun little thing to fly. It is so fun to fly. It is such a great balance. Like, it has all of the performance and maneuverability that you expect from a 3-inch, but it has even more power, more like a 5-inch. And people have often said, why is everybody flying 5-inch and 3-inch and not 4-inch? And it's because nobody had found the right combination of parts yet, I think, to give you that balance. And I feel like Catalyst Machineworks has totally done it with this quad. So I'm going to be keeping the 4-inch. But I talked to Catalyst Machineworks about doing a giveaway for these guys, and I'm going to be giving away the 5-inch. And I hope that's all right with you. I hope you're going to really enjoy it. I feel like giving away the 5-inch is going to give somebody else out there the opportunity to appreciate what this 400 gram 5-inch experience is like in a way that, and maybe that's doing something good for the world. And also, I just like the 4-inch better and want to keep it. So if you are interested in entering this giveaway, there is a link in the video description to a Google form that you can go to apply to enter the giveaway. There's also the full terms and conditions of the giveaway for like legal reasons. The giveaway winner will be announced in a post to the community page of my YouTube channel and will be notified by email. So definitely make sure you're subscribed to the channel and hit the notification bell, and maybe just check back to the community page in like 4 or 5 days when I should have announced the winner. If you're interested in picking up one of these for your very own self, you can do that through the links in the video description. And yes, they are affiliate links, which means they get a small commission every time you make a purchase at Catalyst Machineworks after you click that link. You want to pick up a Shocker? Click the link, go order a Shocker. You want to pick up anything else they sell? They got a lot of great quads. Just click the link, make a purchase, tell them I sent you, and it helps me out. People always say it helps out the channel. It helps me out. It gives me money. It helps out the channel. That's going to do it for this video, though. If you have flown the 5-inch Shocker, I am interested to hear from you in the comments, and I think other people are too. Tell me your experience with it. I hope it's a good experience, but if it's a bad experience, let me know as well. I don't think there's a lot of people out there who have flown a quad with these flight characteristics, and I'd like to hear what you like or dislike about it, to kind of add to the body of knowledge about it. Thanks so much for watching. Happy flying.
You guys, I don't know where I am, and I don't know what's going to happen, but if I don't make it out of this, I just want to know that you subscribe to my channel, or maybe join my Patreon, or click one of these videos I picked out for you.